It's now been 1 year since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and the political dissension over abortion rights continues to grow. We've recently discussed the topic with Republican presidential candidates on this broadcast, but today we turn to Texas Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, a co-chair of President Biden's re-election bid, and she joins us from El Paso. Good morning to you, Congresswoman. It's been 50 years since 1973 and that ruling, but in that time, Congress failed to pass any protections for abortion access. Even when Democrats controlled both houses, even when presidents were Democrats. We're now at this point where our CBS News polling shows 53% of Democrats feel as though your party isn't doing enough on the issue of abortion. Why do Democrats think this is a winning issue for the party when they've not been able to deliver on it for so long?
Well, Margaret, the House Democrats have passed the Women's Health Care Protection Act. We did that both sessions of Congress, the last two, when we had a majority. But as you know, and as the American people know, we did not have a wide enough majority in the Senate. In the Senate, because of the filibuster, the Senate has not acted on protecting access and women's freedom to have access to abortion care. But it is really important that we look at what's happened since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Republican-controlled Supreme Court. We have seen 23 million women lose access to reproductive health care. We've seen 18 states enact harsh abortion bans. And we have also seen every single Republican nominee express support for a federal national abortion ban. We cannot go in that direction, and that's why these upcoming elections are critically important.
But even when there was unified control, it wasn't delivered on. When you look at what's happening now, half of those polled by CBS say abortion access has become more restricted over the past year, as you just detailed. So we know President Biden's taking these executive actions and orders. Why isn't there more grassroots mobilization at the state level if the entire point of the court ruling was that it goes back to the states?
We have seen grassroots mobilization at the state level. We've seen states—
You're saying you're losing the argument, though.
I'm sorry?
But you just detailed that state by state, in many places, you're losing that argument.
Well, states are making every effort, and grassroots organizations and women across the country are working to put in protections at the state constitutional level. But the challenge that we will face, should Republicans maintain control of the House and gain control of the Senate or the White House, is that we would see national restrictions that are harsher and more serious than what we see today. So we've got a huge challenge on our hands, in the sense that women's reproductive freedoms continue to be rolled back. And the only way to win that is by winning elections, both making sure that we flip the House and regain control, and that we elect a wide enough margin, a filibuster-proof majority, or senators willing to lift the majority to protect women, and we've got to maintain the White House.
Well, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley was recently on this program, and she said candidates aren't telling the American people the truth. Republicans and Democrats, she puts in that bucket. She said there's neither the consensus nor the votes for either party to either legalize or fully ban abortion. Listen to what she said.
So let's be honest with the American people and say, let's find national consensus. Let's agree on, getting rid of late-term abortions. Let's agree on the fact that we need more adoptions. Let's agree on the fact that we need accessible contraception. Let's agree on the fact that mothers shouldn't be jailed or go to, get the death penalty for abortions.
Doesn't she have a point? There are smaller issues related to abortion you can find consensus on?
The national consensus, Margaret, is that 80% of Americans do not agree with the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
But in terms of what you could actually get passed in Congress?
Well, we Democrats passed the Women's Health Care Protection Act in the House.
Yes, only in the House.
And the challenge in the Senate is that you need a supermajority. You need 60 votes.
Exactly.
And so Right, which is why we need to win elections this next November. And furthermore, we've got to retain the White House, because there's only one person who will be on the ballot next November, and that's President Biden, who has promised and committed to fighting for women's reproductive freedom. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah.
As much as Nikki Haley wants to talk about finding consensus here and there, the bottom line is
stopping women from being prosecuted, for example, the death penalty. I mean, you have to appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, why not pass a law on that front?
Can you imagine?
Is that not worth it?
That's where they want to allow.
Well, she's
consensus.
saying let's pass a law to prevent that on the national level.
Well, my perspective, and I think the vast majority of Americans' perspective, is we want the protections under Roe v. Wade restored. 80%, and in fact, even
so
65%.
24 weeks.
I'm sorry?
Protection up to 24 weeks of pregnancy. That's your defined position. I know that's what was in the Protection Act, but specifically that's what you are endorsing.
Roe v. Wade essentially protects a woman's right to access abortion. And what we are seeing in states like my own in Texas, where the rollbacks have happened and the bans are occurring, is that even in cases where women's health is at risk, politicians don't really care about the health of the woman.
Congresswoman, thank you for coming on and making that case. We'll be back in a moment.